Hi there, I'm Andrew McComb and welcome to Outlier. In this week's episode, I'm in beautiful Taylor's Mistake in Christchurch, New Zealand, where I'll be speaking to Jackie Norman and Gareth Scurr from My Van, My Castle, and the revered Riches Have Wheels Facebook page. Okay guys, I'm excited. Let's go and meet them. Jackie Norman, Gareth Scurr, welcome to Outlier.
Thank you very much.
Guys, just as a little preface, My Van, My Castle, Jackie is the author and Gareth is one of the main characters. It's essentially a tale of their first year of so far 3.5 years in this van behind us, where they've been travelling around New Zealand. Guys, most Kiwis, Australians, etc., mortgage, 2.2 kids, 2 cars and a picket fence is the dream.
Yeah.
It wasn't your dream, was it?
No, it became very, very far from the dream. It was the last thing I wanted in the end, as it turned out.
So what was going on for you before you decided to jump in the van and just pack it all in?
Yeah, well, I guess like a lot of people these days, we try and be everything to everybody, and that was what I was trying to do. So my first marriage had ended, and I was raising 2 teenage boys by myself. One of them was going through university and the other was almost ready to leave school. And I was living in the seaside town of Whangamata in Coromandel, and it's one of the holiday hotspots. So where a lot of people would perhaps rent to take the pressure off. I didn't want to do that because, you know, I wanted to prove myself, that I could do everything. And B, being a seaside town, I could see so many of my friends all the time that were in rentals that were being given their notice all the time. You know, they were, they were being kicked out to make room for higher paying holiday makers just because of the essence of the town that we were in. And I saw it going on all around me and the heartbreak that it caused. And I thought, well, I don't want that to happen to me. I want security for myself and my boys. So that was why I was trying to have it all and bring it all together. And I was working, up to 4 jobs to bring that all together. And it was pretty hard. And I realized that there's a difference between living and existing, and I was literally existing. I wasn't living at all.
Yeah, and so your main occupation is a writer?
Yes, yeah, I've been doing that for 20 years. So that was always what paid the mortgage. And then just with the way things are these days, with a lot of people going to the internet more than magazines and things like that, the company that I've been working for 9 years, that was the real clincher. They made all the freelancers redundant, and I was one of them. So 9 years I knew it wasn't going to last forever, but 9 years was a long time for a magazine to be going, so I got pretty complacent.
So during this period, before you've even thought about this, were you thinking about travelling around, or how did it all come about?
No, it was a dream that I had in the future, far off. So I sort of thought, well, I need to be at home for my boys. Even once they've left home, I wanted to provide that home for them to come back to. And so I had this pipe dream that one day when I'd paid off the mortgage, which I think I'd worked out I was going to be 75 or something like that, it would just be me and the dog at that stage. I hadn't met Gareth, and I thought that it would be nice to have a motorhome to poodle around in. But I thought that was a long way off, and I thought it was something that only retired people did. So, it was a very distant dream.
Yeah, but it became reality quite quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. I mean, we had all sorts of things going on. Gareth he became ill after I met him. And so that was all happening. Everything was sort of going from bad to worse, wasn't it? I was having, I guess, sort of, I don't want anybody to think that although it happened quickly, it definitely wasn't on a whim. I tried everything I possibly could to keep things together as long as I could. So, it was literally at a stage where at one point I had a job working for someone that I can't think of the words. Sorry. It was someone who supplies markets, flower markets with, foliage and things like that. So there were days that I spent sitting for 8 hours in the mud, stripping magnolia leaves from branches.
Wow.
There were other days where people would give me a call and say, hey, can you come and clean my holiday home, or my bathroom really needs cleaning for another $20 to put food on the table. So I was fitting in, like I said, up to 4 different jobs at any time. I was working in a bar. So I really, really tried everything to hold it together. It wasn't, it was going on for a long time. And so when it actually happened, we just realised, we didn't know where we wanted to be. That was the main thing. We knew something had to change, and we had to make a big change. And I knew that I didn't want to rent, because of what I said of the insecurity of where we were. But we just didn't know where we wanted to be.
Right.
So it's interesting too, you mentioned, so for the viewers' sake, your writing before what you write about now was a lot to do with saving, wasn't it?
It was a lot to do with money saving, and that was another thing. I'd already learnt to live frugally, and I remember when I first got my mortgage, the mortgage broker knew my work, and he said, if anybody can do this, he said, I know you're going to be under pressure, but if anybody can do this, it's you. And so I did use a lot of my frugal skills to get me through as long as I did. So I was really proud of that. And sometimes the hardest times are the best times, because every little triumph that you have, that you do to help yourself, that's really good. But it had just gone on too long. I mean, I weighed 45 kilos by the time we made that change. And I was just sort of on autopilot, really. I was a bit of a shell of myself, and I knew that it really wasn't healthy to keep going.
So obviously with the saving, and that's really helped with the travelling as well?
Absolutely, yeah. And when I met Gareth, even, I was already pretty minimalist. I mean, my house was 3-bedroom, but I'd sold everything that I didn't need, really, just to make money, to put food on the table to get the bills paid. So I remember when I met Gareth, and the first time he came round, I was quite embarrassed because I owned so little already, and I was worried what he would think. But as it turned out, he didn't own very much either. And if he did notice, he didn't say anything. So it worked out quite well. So I guess, compared to a lot of people, I did live frugally already, and I was already pretty minimalist.
So the cover of the book talks about there's signposts for... One part of the signpost is mortgage, suburbia, stress, and the rat race. And the other is tranquility, freedom, road trip, and adventure. So they're kind of juxtapositions of opposites,
polar
right?
opposites, and they...
Before you could have that freedom, that tranquility, that travel, that adventure, something happened at Bunnings one day, didn't it?
Yes, it did. I mean, going back to the whole money saving thing, I wasn't eating very well. Like any mum, I was a good cook. I knew how to make something out of nothing, and so the boys always ate really well, but it got to the stage that there wasn't always enough for me. And I remember at one stage, I had Marmite and camembert sandwiches because my mum gave me some camembert that was left over from Christmas, so I would have that, or one of my meals was like rice with cheese on it, or 2-minute noodles. So I wasn't looking after myself very well. And I realized, well, Jack, if you can't afford proper food, you're going to have to start growing your own, because that will be the best way that I can feed myself better. But I didn't have too much in the bank, so I thought, well, I'll go to Bunnings and maybe I can get some herbs. It's not a lot, but I can jazz up my 2-minute noodles with some parsley or something. And so I went along to Bunnings one Sunday, and this blonde hairy guy stopped me and asked if I needed any help with anything, and that was Gareth.
So tell me about that. Something instantly struck you, didn't it? What was it?
It did. It literally was a boom kind of moment.
I think it was the Bunnings penny that did it.
Oh, it was, and the hat. We've still got the hat in the van. And I was walking out to the garden section. He was walking in and just said, can I help you with anything? And I actually already knew where the parsley was, but I said, yeah, you can show me where the parsley is.
And I had no idea where it was either. I worked in the timber department, and it was a small format store, so you could walk around it in about 5 minutes. And yeah, there's nothing to do in the timber yard, so I thought, oh, I'll go for a wander and see if there's anything I can do. And instead I ended up, well, not really helping too much, but...
He showed me where the parsley was, and I got my parsley and some other herbs, and I went home, and he had the loveliest smile I'd ever seen. You know, it was just so warm and genuine, and I knew his name because small town, everybody knows each other. Yeah. And I got home, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And, you know, I was sort of thinking, oh, I wonder if I should add him on Facebook. You know, he seemed really nice. And I thought, well, you can't do that. I mean, you know, he was just doing his job, yeah. You know. It's not like I go and get my rego done in the post office. I don't add the guy on Facebook, you know. And so I was kind of having a bit of a talk to myself and, you know, behave yourself. You're being ridiculous. You know, he'd be appalled. There's no way he'd be interested in you. So I planted my herbs, and I thought, well, that's the end of it. You know, I'm not going to do it. But anyway, the next day I got a friend request on Facebook, and that was Gareth.
Wow, so you initiated the connection.
Yeah, it's, I don't know, there's someone I really wanted to chase after. I thought, why hold myself back, you know? I think there's something special, so go for it.
Yeah, he really did. And
so you really felt the connection, both of you, at the time, yeah?
Yeah.
It's funny. And if he hadn't added me, that wouldn't have happened, because I would have never got the courage. And once we started talking, we just didn't stop. And he was very different. I really liked that, because, you know, we talked. I was working evenings, and I wasn't looking for a relationship. I was very, very scared of it. And so he was a lot more, he kind of said straight out what he wanted. You know, he was looking for something real. And I was thinking, oh, I was at a stage where, you know how people say, you know, you can't be happy with another person until you're happy with yourself. Yeah. And despite the stress that I was under, I was completely comfortable with myself. I just figured, this is my life, you know, waiting for the kids to come home, watching Corro Street, or, you know, My Kitchen Rules and that kind of thing. So yeah,
what you had done, right?
Yeah, I thought that was me. I literally thought I was going to be alone for the rest of my life, just paying off the mortgage. So yeah, I wasn't looking for anything at all, so I was quite scared. But we had, even with the technology, we had quite an old-fashioned sort of courtship, because we were talking every night for about 6 hours every night, you know, just on Facebook, on Messenger. We sort of bonded through travel. Gareth had been to Canada, and I was a frustrated traveller. You know, I wanted to travel, but I figured that would take years, and so we connected through that. And I was a couple of months before I agreed to a date, because I was quite shy about it. But yeah, once we did have that date, we only ever had one date, didn't we? And then he kind of just moved in. So.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I figure we've been talking that long, you know, and then the date we had, it was meant to be I don't know, maybe a 2-3 hour walk. It took us 7 hours, because we just started nattering, and we were just talking for hours and hours, and just, I don't think we stopped talking at all.
No.
What a fantastic story. So obviously the connection there, the stress you were under, did you ever question it at any point and go, I can't do this anymore? Or what was the impetus between now taking the step for both of you to buying a van and off you go?
Yeah, I felt quite bad. I mean, I don't know why he didn't run away screaming, because, you know, everything went wrong. Every job that I got, I either got made redundant or something happened. There was, everything just turned to custard. You know, it wasn't long after Gareth moved in. He became ill for quite some time. And so by the time we made the decision, we got to the stage, I'd sold everything that I could, and I just couldn't go on anymore. Yeah. So by the time we sold the house, Gareth had actually got another job, and things were starting to pick up, but it was too late, you know, and we'd already made the decision. Something had to change. So, we were thinking about doing something different. We were sort of looking into sort of tiny houses, that kind of thing, maybe getting some land and building. But again, we didn't know where we wanted to be. And so one day, it was That's Life magazine, big magazine in New Zealand and Australia. I actually wrote the Pennywise money column.
You were Pennywise.
I was Pennywise, for 9 years. And so it was the last copy of that's life that was on the table, and I was just had a day. Gareth was at work, and I was really quite sort of despondent. And I was flicking through the magazine, and it was the last issue that I wrote for, and there was an article about a woman who sounded just like me, and she sold up everything. She was sick of the debt, the stress, and everything, and she didn't know anything about living in a bus or anything, but she bought this great big bus, and 18 months on, she was just loving it, loving every minute. She had no problems getting work. She was a little older than me. She was also in New Zealand as well, and this light bulb just went on. I just thought, well, I can do this. Why didn't I realize, I was still freelancing, I was still working, and I thought, well, I can actually do this. I can just move my my laptop in the van, and I can still keep working. And Gareth was quite happy to just keep doing anything, really, whatever we needed to do to support ourselves.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, pretty much, it was only a few days that we were out of the van that I got offered more writing work to make things even better.
So once you'd started in the van, it started happening again, did it?
It did, yeah. Doors just started opening. So
which is the way, isn't it?
Yeah. So as soon as Gareth came home from work, I just showed him the magazine article, and I said, we can do this.
Yeah.
We absolutely can, you don't have to be retired to live this way. So,
yeah. And so just for the viewers' sake, back in hindsight, it's always interesting when you're going through challenges that at the time it just feels like hard work and nothing's working for you. But in hindsight, would you say that it was actually a sign that it's just not what you're meant to be doing? There's another part of you that's trying to come through and live this freedom life that you've been living for 3.5 years.
Yeah, I think so. Once we realised, we talked about the dream, and I'd spoken to Gareth, and he was like, yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah.
And once we realised that we could work and actually support ourselves, that we didn't have to wait until retirement, definitely. It just kind of thought, this is what we're meant to be doing. And
so did it unfold, Gareth, quite quickly from that point, once the, showing the That's Life article? And
yeah, we straight away started sort of planning out, and I'm making that pipe dream even bigger then, and trying to imagine what it could be like living on the road, which it still surprises us every day, but yeah.
Would you say what's unfolded was like you were planning? Because we always have a vision, right, when we're trying to start anything, but was that more just an initiation and then everything just unfolds, or has it worked out perfectly to what you'd planned out?
Oh, sorry. I'd say that it more initiated it, and then the thing with living on the road is that everything changes every day, and so you can roughly plan, but it's always going to be slightly different. So it was good to initially plan, build out, and it started off going how we thought, but now it's gone even better. Because you couldn't imagine how good it'd be.
Just incredible things start happening too. Like obviously you guys with Riches Have Wheels, with the book coming out, have you noticed attraction starting to grow, and the attraction with people are coming to you? Like obviously we're talking because I read the book for Christmas. I got it as a secret Santa present. I was so inspired. I went, I've got to interview these guys. So like that's kind of synergistic in itself, isn't it? And I was saying to you the other day, I saw your book on the bookshelf randomly in the middle of nowhere in a bookstore that was packed with people. And I just grabbed my eye and went, that's me, I'm going to grab that book, So, but you can't forecast that right back in hindsight, that's how we've come to meet, was a book on a shelf in a bookstore,
Absolutely. I mean, we kind of, I remember joking about it because everything happened so fast. We put the house on the market and it sold in 9 hours. We had a queue of people wanting to come through it. Location really helped. Everyone wants to live in Whangamata, it's beautiful. So from then on, we had 5 weeks to empty the house. Had a big garden. By that time, I'd been to Bunnings a lot, so I had a big veggie garden. I had, it was looking pretty good. So, we had 5 weeks to find a home on wheels. And initially my plan had always been to have a respectable, decent-sized motorhome. But funnily enough, some mutual friends that sort of we hadn't met them sort of together, but they were both mutual friends that they'd come over from England and were travelling around in a van and a wee caravan. And I was quite envious of that. And I thought, I'd really love to do that. And so rather than the big motorhome, there were things that we didn't really plan to be on the road that long. You know, we just thought, well, we're going to travel around, live tiny for a while, and try and find a base somewhere that we can eventually build on.
Yeah, you were going to find a base for a tiny house, weren't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And B, Gareth didn't drive at the time. I was the only driver, and I was driving a Mazda Demio at the time. It was about the size of a sewing machine. And so I didn't have a lot of confidence to drive a big motorhome or a bus like the lady that I'd read about. So I thought, well, yeah, I'll start in a van. That's my limitations. That's what I'm comfortable with. And we'll go from there. You know, if we can upsize after, that's fine. But, you know, we haven't.
We planned to be on the road 3 months, not 3 years.
Wow, so 3 months became 3.5 years so far. Isn't that incredible? Tell us about the first day.
First day. The first day, Gareth got off pretty lightly because he went to work. He still had to finish his work contract for the first 10 days that we were on the road. So we were staying in a motor camp in Whangamata, and we had Minnie, our dog, with us as well. And she is a Cocker Spaniel, but she wasn't a small Cocker Spaniel. She was very obese. She had some health problems. And at the time I thought, God, what am I doing taking an old sick dog on the road? But, you know, she had to come with us, and we would never, ever have left her, you know. So it was Minnie and I while Gareth went to work. And the first night that we were out of the house, it was lovely. We were sitting in the sunshine. We were, you know, eating pizza, drinking wine, thinking, we've done it, we're out, this is brilliant, we're going to be spending every day, every night like this, just sitting, relaxing in the sunshine. It rained for the first 19 days that we were on the road.
Wow.
Relentlessly.
Yeah.
And we were in the van, so Gareth was at work, and during the day, there wasn't much that Minnie and I could do. On the one hand, it was nice because, you know, the rain would be pelting down, but I was still in my hometown, but I couldn't go home anymore.
Yeah.
And so I was just sort of at a bit of a loss, just driving around aimlessly, wondering what to do. Minnie kept trying to throw herself out of the van every time we stopped somewhere because she thought she was going home. And it wasn't what I expected, you know.
So for the first few weeks you stayed in Whangamata, you finished your contract, and then what did you start? Did you head south, north? What happened?
We had to head north first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured I'd stay on because my contract for my job I had 10 days left on it, so I figured, well, we'll just stay another 10 days, get that finished, and then I can wrap things up nicely. But yeah, it was quite a hard time for Jackie because, you know, she was quite bored a lot of the day and stuff like that and didn't know what to do with herself in the hometown, and I'd come home to her
complaining, oh, it's been a horrible day, you know, because I couldn't get out of the van, you know, I couldn't go through and walk, and
especially with the rain, and we had the barbecue to cook on at the stage, so I'd get home and I'd have to start rigging up tarps in the rain and then sitting underneath the tarp trying to cook dinner, and yeah, made things quite interesting. But yeah, we decided to head north. As soon as the job was over, it was like, let's get out of here, let's get on the move and start living properly.
And so just from a psychological perspective, that first few days you've made this big decision, and then it's all of a sudden not what you thought. The first day's great, and then it rains and you're going, what have I done?
It was that whole thing of not being able to go home anymore, and I really did feel homeless for a few days. It was kind of a limbo time. Gareth had to keep working, and everything got wet in the van, you know, because as soon as you open the door, you know, I've got a wet dog. The bedding got wet. Everything was just constantly wet. I remember one day I spent $18 at the laundromat just trying to get bedding and towels wet. And I thought, oh, you know, this isn't really, it's not what I thought it was. But there were other times where, you know, I'd park up at the harbour and the rain would be pelting down, and Minnie would be asleep next to me, and I'd be reading, doing crosswords, and that was nice because I'd never been relaxed enough to do that before. I'd never had the time to do that, and so that was quite idyllic, and I didn't have to worry about money anymore. You know, that was brilliant. I mean, I remember the night before the house sold, before everything went through, I got declined for $17 fish and chips. You know, now I could go and have whatever I wanted, but I was also very aware I still had that frugal instinct in me, you know, and I remember my friends asked me what it felt like to be debt free, and it felt amazing. It felt amazing. But there were so many people that I knew were still struggling, and I just felt so lucky, so incredibly lucky. So even though I felt in limbo, and I was in this tiny van, and I didn't know what the future held, I was debt free, and I wasn't like them anymore. You know, I had some control.
And plus, you had some job offers starting to roll in as well at this point.
Yeah. We'd only been on the road a few days, and it turned out that the editor of Motorhomes, Caravans and Destinations magazine had been following my blog for quite some time, and so as soon as she heard that we were on the road, she got in touch and said, "Oh, you know, I'm the editor of this magazine. Would you
how's that?
like to come and write for us?" So we thought it was brilliant. And
you still write for them, don't you?
yes, I do.
Yeah.
And it's so funny how things have turned out with writing My Van, My Castle, you know, because obviously I'd been a writer for many years, and when we started making preparations to go on the road, people would say, "Oh, well, you know, you'll be able to write a book about your travels." And we were like, "Oh, yeah, we could," you know, thinking, well, that would never happen.
Oh, my God. And so it happens.
And so it happens. And we still have very many more adventures. So.
Yeah, so speaking of adventure, you then head north. And so for the viewer's sake, I guess, give them a little bit of an itinerary of, say, between that first year, especially in the book. You know, I've read the book and there's so many places that you've been.
Yep.
So just give us a little overview of that, and then tell us which ones have been some of your favourites so far.
Well, I suppose, we started heading up towards Cape Reinga, the most northern point, and so we went through the Bay Islands and places like Russell and stuff like that, and we went through quite a few of the touristy areas, and then we found that we didn't like the touristy areas, so then we tried to go more off the beaten track.
Yeah.
But we headed north, and then we had to come back to Whangamata for Christmas to catch up with my mum and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Just
then,
on that, you're not from New Zealand, are you? Neither are you.
No, originally I'm from Wales.
Yeah.
I've been out here about 10 years now, and I emigrated out, and well, you've been out here far longer than me.
Yeah, I've been out here almost 30 years now. So
From
England, so came a long way out to meet a Welshman.
Yeah.
both got semi-Kiwi accents now, haven't
Yeah, I've been out here long enough just to get the tongue.
you? So you went off the beaten track, and I know you mentioned in the book you got a tip, and this is obviously how it works on the road. There's a community of travellers who give you information,
Yes.
and what did they say? They said, go to this place, and you're like, why are we going to that place? You went there, and it was one of the best places you've ever been.
Yeah.
But you don't share it with anyone, do you? Because you had an agreement with them.
Ah, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. It was wonderful. We still refer to it as the village. And it was a wonderful experience in so many ways, because I was, it's ridiculous for somebody that wanted to, you know, lower her expenses and, save a fortune on accommodation. And I wanted desperately to go freedom camping because, you know, freedom, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
But I was a real wuss as well, because I thought that nobody else was doing what we were doing. I thought it was incredibly different and daring, and that we'd be really isolated. And I thought to live the way that we were in a wee van, you had to be a bit of a down and out, down on your luck kind of thing. So I expected that freedom camps would be full of weirdos, drug addicts, you know, undesirables, hoons, and so it took a while for me to get the confidence up to go freedom camping, and it was quite expensive, wasn't it, the first few weeks?
So it's not 100% free freedom camping.
Well, for the first few weeks we were staying in commercial campgrounds because Jackie hadn't plucked up the courage to say that she wants to go to a freedom camp. But all the freedom camps they are fully free. It's just there's occasionally low-cost campgrounds, which may be like under $10.
Yeah.
But we spent a lot of time in commercial campgrounds at first, spending big bucks to stay for not a lot of the facilities all the time.
If you do that, it's expensive. I mean, there aren't any full-timers that do that or could afford to do that. It's just not feasible. But I mean, it was great. It was a great way to find our feet and to grow confidence and get used to camping in general. But yeah, we were actually staying at a commercial campground, and it was the groundsman at this place that said, you know, this is my fishing spot, don't tell anybody, but you go here and it's free. And he was really genuine. We spent quite a lot of time with him. He was a real character. He was lovely. So we thought, well, if he thinks it's okay, it should be okay. And it was wonderful there. Met some dear friends, and
got on it a few times.
But yeah, we did.
With them?
And it was really funny actually, because one thing I didn't write in the book, like I said, I thought everyone was going to be a weirdo, drug addict or whatever. And we got to this place, and it was surrounded by, there were oyster fishermen there, weren't there?
Yeah.
And we hadn't long been there, and Gareth had this Iron Maiden shirt that he was wearing because he was a bit of a metalhead. And instantly this sort of long, straggly-haired fella comes up to us from the fishing boats, and he's drunk as anything. He's staggering around, offers us some marijuana, and I thought, oh, God, freedom camping is everything I bloody well thought it was going to be. Oh, get me out of here kind of thing. But anyway, he had a chat, was obsessed with Gareth's Iron Maiden shirt, and had a bit of a yarn about that. And then he went off to sleep it off in his car. And so, that was not the best impression for me. But then there were these other two vehicles that were there. One was a bus and one was a Bedford house truck. And they turned out to be full-timers on the road. They were all Kiwis, and they became like family, and they still are.
How's
they still
that?
Are. And like
so
you
after
say,
a couple of nights, they're feeling like family.
Yeah, it really was like that, and we just love them to bits. We're still in touch with them, and they taught us so much, and up until then, living in commercial campgrounds or staying in commercial campgrounds, you didn't see too many Kiwis. There, a lot of them were. It was a great way for us to meet overseas people, and had some great conversations, and made some great friends that way. But actually meeting the Kiwis that were living full time on the road, it's a completely different kettle of fish. So we learned so much.
So you went up north, you came back to Whangamata for Christmas, and then it was time to come south?
Yeah, we headed down and went and did Taranaki district, which we absolutely love. So many beautiful walks to do down there, and for us, we went near Waitomo, where they have the caves and stuff, and it's a very big money scheme at the moment. So you can pay big bucks to go and see the caves, but we wanted to go see something free, and so we found a place called the Natural Bridge, and it's something out of a fantasy tale. It's just so amazingly beautiful, and it's free. It's just a bit further down the road. And so then we started getting all off the beaten track even more, and trying to find these little hidden gems, which usually you go and talk to the locals and they'd all have a little tidbit for you. But we headed down through Taranaki, and then it was off to, I think, Wellington. Before heading south, and then
Taupo, did a bit of the Bay of Plenty. It's cool.
And then you had some whales to rescue in the in Golden Bay there.
Well,
that was the plan.
Jackie was dead set on trying to get over there for it, but there was just so many vans and cars and people heading that way, and then by the time we were getting close, everyone started heading back, and the roads were just clogged. But we had to go over Takaka Hill, and Jackie's not a fan of heights, so it was quite interesting. We had to put it was Michael Bublé that day to try and calm her down.
No.
Up north, I like a lot of quite heavy stuff, and there's a Finnish death metal band, folk death metal band, and they have quite a loud sort of scream during it, and I played that over the hills, and she almost killed me for it. So this time I thought, play it safe, we'll put something she likes on, Bublé or Robbie Williams or something, and we got down the hill, but we still haven't been back over yet because she's dead set on not doing it, but I'll drag her up.
It's good though, because you get over so many fears. You hear these things, like about the freedom camping. And once I got over that one night and realised there were so many wonderful, real people living out the way we were, that was completely dispelled. And the thing about roads as well, you hear people, New Zealand roads and South Island roads. And with me being the only driver, Are you
still the only driver?
No. He's got his license.
After how long?
Best part of what, 2 years?
Yeah, two and a half
Yeah.
years. Yeah. So now he's the main driver now, but at the
great.
time it was just me, and so I did have that kind of pressure on my shoulders. That was my responsibility to get us and our house on wheels from A to B safely. So, but most of the roads, everyone goes on about how terrible the roads are. They're not.
Yeah.
I am the biggest wuss when it comes to roads, and they're really not, apart from Takaka Hill and the other place in the book, Apido Bay, and it wasn't the roads that were bad, they've got no blooming fences, they've got these sheer drops, and I'm on, looking over the edge thinking, oh my God, and it's like, can you just put some barriers up or something?
Yeah.
Don't make them so high and so narrow if you're not going to give me some, But it makes you a better driver, I think,
Last night's campground almost gave her a heart attack because it's quite a high up road up in the hills above us, and yeah, we had to pass a car along this very narrow road, and yeah, I'm glad I was the one driving.
He's like, oh, this is awesome, this is great, look at the view, look at these hills. I'm like, lovely.
Yeah, that's terrifying. So that's an interesting part, because obviously before you went you had preconceived ideas, you had all these fears, and I know a lot of the viewers who are probably thinking about doing the same thing, they don't know what they don't know, right? So over time, and I think you even mentioned it in the book, it took about 6 months for you to realise that you're a traveller and this is my life now.
Yeah.
But you are now comfortable with that. You're not afraid of things anymore, and tell us about that.
Yeah, we weren't homeless anymore. This was our home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you also had because you were looking for the tiny home, weren't you?
We were.
And then you
were.
realised we've been in it for the last 6 months or 12 months or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. We did a lot of travelling around. We went from the top to the bottom of New Zealand. As Gareth said, we liked Taranaki a lot. We liked Nelson Lakes a lot, apart from the sandflies.
Yeah.
And we loved the Catlins. We loved the Catlins down south as well. That was somewhere that we looked quite seriously at getting a piece of land. But we knew that there was still so much more to see, so we didn't decide to settle at that stage.
I suppose we fell so much more in love with the traveling aspect because we found some of these beautiful places and always, well, what's the next one? What's going to be around this bay? What's going to be around that cove? And we couldn't quite settle properly in an area, so we realized that our point is to just keep going around and finding the next one and trying to up it every time. And last night was one of the most beautiful campgrounds we've been in 3 years, and it comes out of the blue, so you just got to keep moving so you find that.
Sure. And the more people you meet, the more amazing places that they tell you about. And that first freedom camp in the villages, we call it, Margaret and Larry, they'd been living on the road for 43 years at that stage. They'd raised a family and everything in their bus, and they just said, you never ever stop learning, and there's always new places to go. And that was one of the funny things, that people say, oh, New Zealand's such a small country, what the hell are you living on the road for? You'll be done in 2 years. That's not the case at all. Not the case at all.
So how do you choose where to go next?
Generally, we sort of look to the area and see what sort of attractions are there. Jackie loves her hikes, so we'll have a look around and she'll normally find something, oh, this is in such and such region, and then we'll point ourselves in that direction and sort of go where our nose leads us to. It's slightly planned, but then it's also left a bit to chance. We'll go to a general region, and then as we get closer, we'll start picking out where we want to be more so.
Yeah, we have a huge wish list. I mean, when we started, before we hit the road, we had a mystery list, as we called it. And, as soon as people heard that we were travelling, they would say, oh, you've got to go to this place. So we had a dozen places to check out that we'd never heard of before. So that was really appreciated. But now, we've added so much more to our own wish list, because everywhere we go, we meet other travellers or read or hear about things and think, oh, we've got to go there. So, the great thing is that you've got all the time in the world, So at the moment, this area that we're in now is beautiful, and, we're only here for 10 days, but it's like, it doesn't matter, we've still got all these other places that we'll check out next time we come back. So, there's not much.
Do you have like a spreadsheet that says where you've been in that, so you do come back to the mystery list and that? Like it's all structured, or?
I'm a real list maker,
Yeah.
so I don't forget anywhere, particularly a good hike. So
Yeah. Generally they're all on scrolls of paper somewhere, and we've got them all stacked up together. But we keep meaning to go to an op shop or a charity shop and go get ourselves a big map and a big marker and draw it all out.
yeah, show where
Just
we've
don't have the
been.
room to put it somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the thing. That's the thing.
The birds are in the van now.
Oh,
They're going in to
hello.
see your food collection. So, planning, obviously beforehand life, you
Yeah.
know, people who are living a normal life have to plan. They've got to get up 9 to 5. They've got to be ready and organised daily. Like, that's gone out the window for you guys somehow, somewhat, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it certainly makes it easier if you do plan a little. Just, you know, at the start when we were on the road, you know, we didn't really have a plan, and it made it quite stressful, you know, finding places to stay and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And also, when we first hit the road, we were under the impression that you had to be constantly on the move. You know, we live on the road now,
Yeah.
so we have to go somewhere different every day. And that can be quite stressful because you've got the whole packing, unpacking, setting up. You know, you don't take the time to look around and appreciate things so much.
It's like the Instagram life, isn't it? Just to get the
Yes.
photo rather than the real connection to the place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we met more Kiwis and we realised that they were staying in places for 2 or 3 weeks at a time that we
Yeah.
realised, oh, we can actually stop. You know, we don't, we felt like we weren't doing it properly if we stayed still. So, but yeah, the life is actually a lot more cruisy than that. So.
Yeah. But and so you then, one of your main first bases, I guess, was way down south, wasn't it? Where
Yes.
some magic happened.
Yeah.
Well, both and twofold, I guess. So Gore was that place. Became a real affinity with you guys, and we'll
Yeah.
get to that in a sec. But then, when I said the magic happened, something happened at Tunnel Beach too, didn't it, along the way in Dunedin?
Yes, yeah, it did.
So tell us about Tunnel Beach, Gareth.
Well, to be honest, I hate the walk down the hill, but Jackie was, she really wanted to go check out that walk, so we decided, you know, we'll take the trip out there, and I had something special in plan, and the beach was formed by a man. He wants to make a private beach for his wife, so he dug a tunnel all the way through these cliffs with a pick and made this private little bay for her, and now it's open to the public. And so, you know, I thought that's quite a romantic story. You know, this man digging this big old hole and this big tunnel for her. So we thought, you know, it might be a nice romantic spot, and we went down there. And unfortunately, there's a busload of children down there. They're all running around squabbling and yelling. And I had a ring in my pocket to give to Jackie. And at the time, I was thinking, I'm going to strangle you little bastards. And but no, we went up there and I proposed to Jackie. And because when we live in such a tiny space, you know, I know she's going to be the one for me because we haven't killed each other. You know, if you can live this closely 24/7, it's you got to be with the right person, and I truly have found the right person for me, I think.
Yeah, it's not too bad. You know, I always swore I'd never get married again, and he said at the start, you know, he didn't believe in marriage. So,
No.
And you're older than Jackie too, aren't you? By a few years.
Yeah.
You're right. So,
just a little, yeah.
he's your sugar baby, is he?
Yeah. Exactly. And, you know, that was another reason why at the start, you know, I was pushing him away, I guess, wasn't I? I was scared of relationships, full stop. But the fact that, I was a couple of years older, it was... I was worried about it, you know.
Yeah.
But he's an old soul, and
Yeah, in a young body.
Yeah. I think, you know, you just click, and you know, it's that old cliche, age is just a number, but it really is. And as Gareth said, we're still yet to have an argument, you know, and we've been in this the whole time, so got to be doing something right.
Which is quite special, right? Because most people are going to think, well, how the hell do you 3.5 years in a small space get on so well? At some point, you got to get to a destination and want to go your own way, or is that not the case?
Well, the thing is, when you live in such a small space, you can't, if you have a disagreement, you can't hold on to that and let it fester. So, you know, you're always quite open and honest about everything that we do, and when we're talking to each other. we spend so much time together that we know each other very well. We're just very in tune, so yeah.
So you can't hide from each other. You'll feel
No.
it, right?
Yeah.
But with that, you know, then we don't really want to, because everything, you know, if there's a problem, it's aired, it's full, you know, it's
So Van's actually a really good counsellor.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds soppy or daft to say, but most of the couples that we meet on the road, they are like us. You know, they are more openly happy, I think.
Yeah.
You know, they're just really content. They're really affectionate. They just love being together. I guess it's because, you know, if you're going to live this life, you've got to have a strong relationship in the first place. And so by the time Gareth and I decided to hit the road, we'd already been through a lot. You know, we'd been through illness, we'd been through a lot of stress and that kind of thing, and we'd come through all of that. So, so you've got to have that strong relationship in the first place. But, you know, living the way you do, it just strengthens everything. You know, you just grow, and by the time Gareth proposed, you know, we'd grown so much together that it just felt right.
Well, I'd grown to the point where I actually wanted to marry, whereas before I was like, no, that's never going to be on the cards. But you know, it's just
You wanted to take her off the market, didn't you?
And I knew I wanted to marry him ages ago, but thought that that would never happen because he was always so staunchly against it. So that was a bit of a surprise. So
Hey.
it was good, you know. And when we got married, that was very different as well. You know, we were true to ourselves, I suppose, weren't we? Which was
We
nice
just
thing.
got married in the campground in Gore, and we had just travellers around. We didn't have any family or anyone down because we sort of figured for them to get all the way down to us, you know, it's going to be a huge expense, and we're not planning anything big.
Yeah.
So,
just low key, it was lovely.
Yeah, we just
That was
went.
a really good part in the book there, wasn't it? Where you went through the planning of getting everyone together and that. And
We
then
were going to have
realised
this
the
huge do,
expense
and
And the dress was...
The meringue dress,
$3,000 dress or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And then there was an epiphany, right? You just went,
yeah.
it just doesn't fit with us.
No, we would much rather save all that money for travelling and for living. So don't regret it at all. You know, well, don't regret getting married at all, definitely. But we don't regret, you know, getting married the way we did. It was it was wonderful. I mean, some of the guests at our wedding we'd only known a few days.
Yeah.
But that's how we were back then. You know, you get talking to someone, you click with someone, it's like, hey, we're getting married in a couple of days. Do you want to come?
Yeah.
You know, and they made it really special. It was neat.
The only regret I had was we got all this music ready on a playlist and everything to play at the wedding, but we ended up catering our own thing as well and doing everything. So then I didn't end up pressing play on it, so we didn't have music. That was the only thing.
And so you decided to stay on in Gore for a while?
Yeah, we took over as assistant caretakers there at the showgrounds where we were staying, and so, you know, cleaning and looking after some of the campers, doing things like that. And it was mainly because our dog Minnie was sick at that time, so we were going back and forth to the vets, so we had to stay a long time, and then kind of got a bit settled there.
Yeah, it was a brilliant summer though. It was a very, very social summer. And it was brilliant for us looking after the campers as well, you know, because we made so many amazing friends, learnt so much about freedom camping, a lot about, you know, what's good about it, what's bad, if anything, not anything really.
Yeah.
We just learnt so much about nomadic life, and, you know, the fact that, I guess, you know, we live thinking that, like you said at the start, you know, you have all these goals that you're supposed to achieve. And we realise that there are so many people out there that would like us, and it's actually fine to live life differently. You know, there are no rules to say that you have to live a certain way. So it was a great time. I kind of felt just like really blooming, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, just growing in confidence so much.
Well, you mentioned it so many times in the book, how lucky you felt, how appreciative you were that this is my life.
Yeah, very much so. And it was nice, you know, the campground in Gore was like a wee community, you know. It just had such a warm and welcoming feel, and particularly in Gore, it's, you know, a lot of Kiwis like, Gore? What are you doing in Gore? You know, it's cold, it's this, it's that, it's it's one of those places that people often drive through, you know, or they're on their way to Dunedin or Queenstown, or the Catlins, and it's not a place that you stop. And as Gareth said, you know, if Minnie hadn't got sick, we wouldn't have stopped there in the first place. We would have just been there for a couple of nights like most people. But there's so much more there. It's this beautiful, warm community. Southlanders are wonderful people, you know.
Very down to earth, aren't they?
Very down to earth, yeah. It's awesome. And so, yeah, we just felt really comfortable there.
Yeah.
So.
Have you got a special shout out for someone in Gore that maybe you guys are ribbing each other, especially you, Gareth? Anything you want to say?
And Bevan, he's just...
we love you, Bevan.
yeah, he's just absolutely top notch. You know, if he hasn't given you a bit of jip that day, you haven't seen him really. And no, he's just so good to us. And yeah, just very glad to have him in our life.
Yeah.
And so you guys, so obviously the book's all about the first year. Gore was kind of where the book ended.
Yeah.
But it's been 2.5 years since the book. So Minnie, where's she now?
Minnie Mouse. We lost her about 12 months ago. As I said earlier, you know, when we first hit the road, I thought, what am I doing bringing this old sick dog with us? But you know, she was another one that bloomed, that blossomed during her time on the road. You know, she got to see and do so much, made so many friends wherever she went, and
she also went to quite a few places she probably shouldn't have gone to as well.
Yeah. But no, she had a wonderful life. But you know, she'd spent her life from a young age. She had autoimmune problems. And her main problem in the end was thyroid. She was hypothyroid, and that was how we came to be in Gore. And we managed to stabilise her, you know, for a lot of the time. But yeah, last Christmas, she got really ill, went downhill very fast. And so yeah, we had to say goodbye to her, and that was very tough. Sad. It was really sad, you know. It's always hard being without your animals, you know, in any situation. They're family. But in the case of Minnie, I think it was much harder than any other pet that I've ever lost, because she was with us 24/7. You know, it was a huge gap, a huge loss. That was hard. But she had, you know, the last 2.5 years of her life travelling were definitely the best.
Yeah.
And we learned as well, you know, how little we did with her when she was in the house. You know, pets spend so much of their day waiting for you to come home, and with Minnie, she was with us all the time. So it was wonderful. It's a wonderful life for pets on the road.
Yeah. So another interesting story in the book was one time you'd pulled into the caravan park. I don't remember where it was, but there's a bit of a thing between the freedom campers or the van campers and the motorhome campers, and is it the sustainability certificate or something you've got to have? And the guy who was hassling you when you're in the van. Tell us about that one.
That was in Tianao, yeah.
We were staying at a NZMCA camp, so that's the New Zealand Motorhome Caravan Association, and we're members of it. But we are in the small van, and most of the members are in a lot of the bigger sort of flasher motorhomes. And we'd got there and we hadn't got our new stickers for the van yet. We had all our cards and all the official details, and we'd signed into this logbook. But every day we arrived there, we were staying there for 5 days, we'd get this crowd of people come over and hassle us just to make sure that we were official members and such like that. And we're like, okay, yeah, fair enough. We do look like the overseas tourists, but we're not. And we had it all sorted out. But on the last day, the 5th day, a chap came in, and he'd only just driven in about half an hour earlier, and we'd been there, you know, for the last 4 days. And he decided to come round and start knocking on the windows, and we'd been sort of roughing it for the last few days. So we're having a bird bath with a 10-litre bucket, you know, in the front there. And at his time of descent on us, I was starkers in the front. We've got blinds and stuff like that, so it's not like you can see right through, you know, so we're a little bit sheltered.
Literally like this in the window. I want to see your card. Where's your card? You know. Oh, it was horrible.
Incredible. So it's like a level of snobbery through the ranks.
Yeah.
There's a real hierarchy. Yeah.
Most of them are wonderful, but this guy was just a different kettle of fish, and I I really am quite ashamed of myself. I didn't have that Braveheart moment, you know, true to my Gaelic sort of descent, you know, jump out
Slide open
starkers.
the door and
I should have just lamped him, but probably better that I didn't. But yeah, he's.
But you went and found him though, didn't you?
I did. You know, once I sort of composed myself and got dressed, and because I thought, you know, that's not on.
Yeah.
It's really not on. And so, yeah, I went up to his caravan and I knocked on the door, and I by that time I got used, because we'd been hassled so much, and so I got used to carrying around an issue of Motorhomes, Caravans and Destinations magazine, and showing people the article. This is me. I have just as much right to be here as you know. And so I knocked on the door and said that, you know, and he didn't want to open the door. He just opened it this tiny crack, you know. I said, hello. I said, sorry we couldn't come out, you know, before. And I said, this is me, you know, I'm a writer. I'm a member of the NZMCA, and I've got just as much right to be here as you. But he didn't say anything, not a word. He didn't apologise. He didn't say hello. He was literally silent. But he just sort of nodded and shut the door again. And we were going to report him. But
worse yet, he didn't sign into the official book, so
everyone's supposed to sign in, you know, this book, and he hadn't done it. So.
Hammering everyone else.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So you get a few like that, but you know, now we know differently. You know, we would have just sort of fronted up and said, "Are you the custodian of this place?" Well, no, bugger off then. You know.
But he had no right. Was he just another random camper? Right?
Just a random camper. As I say, he's only pulled in like half an hour earlier, and he just took it upon himself to come and try and hassle us. So
So obviously he's wanted some strange characters on the road. To be some great characters, funny characters. What's some of your highlights, other than Bevan, of course?
Oh yeah.
There's Hillbilly Harry.
Hillbilly Harry, yeah. His real name was Jeff.
Yeah.
We're still in touch with him as well. So
he was in down from
Nelson Lakes.
Yeah.
Nelson Lakes. Yeah. He's a really interesting character, and just someone we came across by chance, and he had a spaniel as well, and he invited us back for a cup of tea. And he said, you know, I've got all the insect screens, so you can sit here and actually have a cuppa in peace and watch all the tourists run away screaming. And he was a lovely one. We're trying to think of we meet so many people.
Yes, Corey. Corey was the groundsman who told us about the secret camping spot. He was lovely. Lovely. So when it was my birthday, he came out, and he used to play jazz and music sort of early in the mornings, and we'd hear it from the van. And when I mentioned to him that I liked hearing his music in the morning, when it was my birthday, he came out, bought his stereo out where we were sitting, and his entire CD collection, and said, "Here you go, you can listen to it for your birthday." And he ended up staying out with us. Quite late, and we got quite tipsy.
I think I cooked dinner about 10 o'clock at night, and it was one of those big nights.
Keep going.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so many.
Like there's Ollie and Hannah. They're from Germany that we met, and we invited
Jenny.
Ollie and Jenny. There's the Ollie and Hannah, another one, aren't they?
They were the ones that we bought the van from.
We bought the van off, yeah.
It was Ollie and Jenny, a German couple.
Yeah, so they we still keep in touch with them, and they send us a little one of those like Kodak disposable sort of cameras, and they sort of had one on their trip, and then they've sent us one, so then we'll send it back to them, and then they'll see all the photos that we've taken off that, and we invited them to the wedding. We'd only known them 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They were the photographers, weren't they, at the wedding?
No, that was Amy. That was Bevan's wife.
Yeah.
That was Bevan's wife. Yeah, she did a wonderful job. And we just meet so many people. I think in this lifestyle, because you meet so many like-minded people, they really become special to you, and you get to know everyone so quickly.
And on a deeper level too,
Yeah, you do. So you really make more of an effort to keep in touch.
So the power of community, obviously freedom campers and travellers, etc., have Facebook pages and groups and everything they're part of. Riches have Wheels. Your Facebook page is a great resource. But did you follow, were you on that as well, looking for recommendations, and how did it work for you guys as far as not just a physical community, but the online community?
Yeah, the online community was great. I mean, there are several groups. There are groups for all sorts. There's the big one is called Motorhome Friends. That's got thousands of members, isn't it? And there's another one living on the road in New Zealand as well. They're two of the bigger groups in Facebook, and you don't have to already be living on the road to join them. You know, it's a great way to join when you're thinking about it and you want to learn more. Everybody's so helpful. You know, you can ask any question. It doesn't matter how silly, you know, that people will give you an answer and put your mind at rest. It's a great place to share tips, where to get different equipment from, gadgets at work, help one another mechanically, you know, share really good places. So they're great resources. There's another one for women traveling solo. I think there's even a dating group for motorhomers.
Single traveling.
Exactly.
Traveling singles,
and you know, some people organise their own rallies. There might be you know, bus owners, and they'll go and get together and that kind of thing. So it's really good. It's a real community. It's a real community, definitely.
And do you find out on the road, you'll say we're here at Taylor's Mistake in Christchurch, but say 3 months from now you'll meet up with people who've been here and you meet up there just randomly? And
just yesterday we didn't meet them as such, but we met a couple 2 years ago, and they parked next to us for a few days and got us quite tipsy, as quite happens with happy hours and things like that. And we were coming down here yesterday, and we were going through Kaikoura, and of course they're still repairing the road, and so we were at the stop sign, and there was another couple coming through the other way, and we looked and we were like, there's Pete and Jude, you know, so we're waving madly, and then we sort of got on Facebook, that was you, wasn't it? You know, so it was great. And we get sort of like probably about 50% of Kiwi motorhomers are like us, and they've sold everything, and they're you know, they're just roaming all the time, and the other 50% have still got their home bases, and so it's wonderful. You know, you all keep in touch, and it means wherever you go pretty much in the country, there's somewhere that says, come and park in the driveway, come and use our shower, you know,
so
which is wonderful.
But you're on your own, but you're not alone, are you?
No, there's a huge support network. You know, like I said, when we first started, we thought we were being so daring and so different, and we'd be completely isolated from everybody, and that's not the case at all. You know, so I think the NZMCA alone has got over 80,000 members.
Wow!
So they're not all full timers, but a lot of them are. So.
Which is interesting, because being an outlier is about being different to the norm, right? But what you've found is you've found a lot of other outliers out there with you, so you aren't alone. You're not separate from the whole, are you?
No, exactly. And it just reaffirms that you know, we're not all supposed to live life according to the same goals and the same pace, the same timeline.
So just on that, Gareth, what's your definition of happiness?
I guess freedom, being able to live how I want to live. You know, happiness comes from the littlest things, just, you know, seeing something nice, seeing a nice view, even just walking, having a nice little walk. So it's just happiness can be everywhere, and having freedom means that then you can explore it whenever it comes about.
Do you find you're happier now than what you were 3.5 years ago?
Oh, a lot happier. You know, I used to have a lot of hobbies. I used to like video games and stuff like that, you know, and although I enjoyed them at the time, it wasn't fulfilling in any way. And now the happiness that we find on the road is, it's not just, you know, mindless joy. It's fulfilling, and it's taken us places. It's purposeful. It's taken us places, literally.
Do you find you're a different person, or just a more evolved version of the older person who you used to be?
I think it's an evolution. It's always, you're always building upon yourself, and I would say I've changed a lot from who I was before. But I think it's all the good elements that which have all evolved and become what I needed to become.
And so I guess for the viewers' sake, how are you guys making money on the road now? Are you still writing? And
still writing. You know, being freelancer, I can write for whoever I like, really. So there's always plenty of work. If anything, we've turned down work. We get too much work offered. You know,
is it writing work or other?
You know, we've been offered businesses to run and things like that, which is fantastic. And 5 years ago, I would have jumped at them. But now, you know, you can only physically do so much. And we do work hard, but it's work that we love. You know, Gareth is doing more photography, more filmmaking. So, You know,
Which you didn't do beforehand, did you?
No, when we hit the road, since working in Bunnings, I'm happy to do any labour job, you know, and just do anything that comes up. I've got a range of skills, so I'll just use them in whatever. But with Jackie's writing for the magazine, I ended up, they asked for photos with it, and I started taking them on my phone of all things. And if you have a decent phone camera, well, what's stopping you from taking good photos? It's all dependent on the light, so. I started doing that, and then photography sort of took off, and now over the last sort of 3 years, it's become my full-time job now as a photographer, and doing all sorts of things now, like working for a charity based in the States, doing videos on animal sanctuaries now whilst we travel. So
that's awesome work to be doing as well.
Isn't it?
Gets to play with piggies and all sorts of things.
And it's all these things that just, I never would have thought of doing it in a million years, but living on the road, that door opened and we decided to go through it.
So it's really important for the viewers and for me, for you to share that, is you don't know what you don't know until you go, do you?
Yeah.
But what's unfolded for both of you has just been profound, not just personally but professionally, that just incredible opportunities, they come to you, don't they?
They really do. They really do. And you've got the time to focus on yourself, to discover your strengths, what you like, what you don't like. And there are so many work opportunities on the road. You know, for us, there are a lot of freelancers like us, or, you know, self-employed people, that graphic designers or computer programmers. There's a lot of those, but others just sort of work on their strengths, don't they?
Yeah.
And so, you know, if you've been farming or you've got a truck driver license or something like that, there's always going to be work.
Yeah, so you'll have work, so work can come to you locally as well as virtually.
Yeah,
on a global scale.
Absolutely. You know, there's even a website, it's called Seasonal Staff here in New Zealand, and it's set up by a couple that live on the road permanently as well, and they saw a need, you know, because that's one of people's greatest fears. How am I going to support myself? Where am I going to get work from? And so they've got their finger on the button all the time, and you know, they will post up, here's work in Te Puke, here's work in Canterbury, and so, you know, it's a brilliant resource and it helps so many people. And unlike a job when you're stationary, you know, and you have to go to work and you don't, you know, that job is for however long, you can go and do work for, say, 6 weeks or something. Maybe it's something as simple as fruit picking. If you don't like it, it doesn't matter, because you know it's only for 6 weeks. You know, it's not forever. The other end of the coin, you know, you may really like it and decide that you want to go fruit picking all over the country. So, and then you've got the people that are sort of in their vehicles. A friend of ours, he's a professional knife sharpener.
Wow.
And so he goes around the country. He's got a bus and he's got a sign up in his window that just says knife sharpening, you know, and he'll sit outside doing it. Outside his bus, and of course people are instantly drawn to him at campgrounds. Because it's not something you normally think of, you know.
You don't see it,
got to get my knife sharpened, you know. But people sort of like, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind getting my knife sharpened. And there's this queue, you know, so that covers his campground fees or whatever. Or there's people that are hairdressers that'll put a sign in the window. So, you know, it really gives you a chance to work on what you're good at, what you like.
And so someone who might be stressing about that before making the big jump and taking off, what advice would you have for them, like based on what you've observed in relation to how am I going to make money?
I think maybe back yourself, you know?
Yeah, like, to me, all I can think is, you know, just get out there and do it, because if you put that intention out there in your head, you know, you're soon going to start attracting those things to you.
Talk to people. Word of mouth is
before or during
thing.
or as it's unfolding?
Just as you go, as you go around, you know, see what's out there, ask around, talk to other campers as well. I mean, the first freedom camp that we went to, Colin and Mara, the other villagers, they gave us a spreadsheet because they'd been living on the road 5 years at that stage. And they gave us this spreadsheet of all the places that they'd worked at, their contacts, how long they'd been there for, you know, whether they were good to work for or not. And we've never actually needed them, but we've given it to several people that have been looking for work. So, you know, there's just so much help out there. And you know, travellers, you hear of things all the time, all the time. Or they know contacts, go to this area and ask this bloke, you know, So
getting part of the community and then just ask lots of questions and everyone's willing to share as best as they can.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely. And you know, don't be scared about doing it, because I mean, we're already kind of, you know, pretty friendly people, but you just become more outgoing, don't you? A lot more open. You know, we find that when we're out and about, actually, we say hello to everybody, because that's how the traveling community is. And then when we go somewhere else, like a city or something, you go and say hello to someone and they just about jump out of their skin because they're not used to it.
I know you mentioned that in the book. After that 6-month period, you realised you'd become more extroverted, more friendly, more outgoing.
Yeah.
Would you say that society is conditioning that with that whole 9-to-5 mortgage life just to focus on survival, whereas you guys are in thrival mode now, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I'm busy being, just when you go around just every day, you know, you're just wandering around, I'm just always happy and grateful and appreciating the day, the sunshine, where we are, everything, you know. We're not hell bent on thinking of what we've got to do all the time.
I think in the 9-to-5 track, you caught into the whole consumerism as well, because then when you get home, you think, well, I've got to have my downtime now, so I'm going to go and do this, I'm going to do that, and you have to try and force your hobbies and all your passions into these extra time that you have. Whereas for us, you know, we do work some long hours some days, but we try to make sure it's working on our passions and our hobbies. It's all part of the job. It's just...
How fulfilling is that?
It's awesome. I think one thing we should say as well, you know, is with working, I mean, probably about 50% of people that we know that live on the road work in some capacity. The other 50% would be retired, but, you know, a lot of us do work. And, you know, people sort of think, oh, people on the road, you know, you're trying to get out of things. You know, you're trying to get out of paying bills.
Society.
And, paying taxes. And what about the rest of us that have to pay rates and all this? It's like, well, A, you could do that if you want to. You know, it's
a choice.
Yeah, it's a choice, you know. But B, we pay 25% tax being freelancers. So we pay tax more than a lot of people in houses do. And we still have bills, you know. You can't get out of everything. We still need insurance. We need internet and phone and things like that. So, you know, you don't get off completely scot-free, but yeah, it's a hell of a lot better.
So, Jackie, the book is about My Van, My Castle, is about the first year on the road of your 3.5 so far.
Yeah.
Obviously, so many more things have happened since the book. And is there a sequel coming out for the book?
I think it is in the pipeline. Yeah. We've been told to prepare for a sequel, and we've certainly got many more adventures. So yeah. Because
obviously a lot's happened. 2.5 years of they're not even mentioned in the book.
No, that's right. And you know, the first year is all about, you know, discovery, excitement, change, and the second year, you know, the second year was a bit of a real roller coaster. You know, that was.
That's when the wheels fell off a little bit.
Yeah, big time. And then, you know, the third year we've come out of that again. So it's great. It's a real tale of overcoming, you know, some real trials and adversity. And
but the viewers are going to have to wait, aren't they?
Yes,
they're going to have to wait for that one. So what does the future look like, Gareth? What's the next step for you guys?
Keep traveling. It's we keep moving until, you know, maybe that patch of land will pop up in the right place for us, and we might stop for 5 minutes, but we're just going to keep on moving on with hopefully more books, and just keep discovering our own story and then telling it.
So it's really become an identity for you guys, hasn't it? The travelling Wilburys in a sense.
It's a case of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and it certainly ain't broke. So you know, one day we'd like to settle down, maybe. Maybe one day, you know, it was one of my fear, you know, having children, that you know, what happens when, you know, grandkids come along and things like that, and I was still on the move, and I've met so many grandparents that said, well, it's wonderful, you know. I mean, even the people that we saw yesterday at Kaikoura, you know, that we were waving madly to at the traffic signs, you know, they had their grandkids with them. They'd just taken them around on adventures for 2 weeks.
Well, there it is. I hope you've enjoyed this inspiring Outlier episode with Jackie Norman and Gareth Scurr. For more videos, resources and information, visit outlier.tv or connect with us on our social media pages below. I'm Andrew McComb, and here's to living the outlier life, outside the comfort zone. I'll see you soon.